The Guns of Navarone movie review. So this is one of those old, great, classic films. This came out in 1961. According to Wikipedia, it is part of a cycle of big-budget World War II adventures that included The Bridge on the River Kwai, which came out in 1957, The Longest Day, which is 1962, The Great Escape, which is 1963, and then this movie here, The Guns of Navarone, 1961. So these four movies together are part of a cycle of big-budget World War II epics that Hollywood was doing at the time. Now, it's noticeable, and again, I'm crediting Wikipedia with this knowledge, The Bridge on the River Kwai, The Longest Day, and The Great Escape were all based on real events, with, to greater or lesser degree with how accurate they were, but based on real events. This one is actually not based on a real event. It's based on a novel of the same name, The Guns of Navarone. And that novel and this film are loosely based or framed by the real-life events called, the Dodecanese Campaign. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. So this takes place during the British campaign in Greece during World War II, which it is interesting because it's one of those things you never really hear of, right? I mean, everybody knows about D-Day and everybody knows about Normandy and the Russian front, but how much do you really hear about what was happening in Greece during World War II? At least speaking for myself, I don't really know that much, so that makes it interesting. This movie has a trio of three great classic film actors from the height of their fame. You've got Gregory Peck, Anthony Quinn, and David Niven. Gregory Peck always plays tough guys, and he's playing a real tough guy in this movie. And Anthony Quinn always plays tough guys, and he's also playing a real tough guy in this movie. In fact, Anthony Quinn's character is so tough that he's promised to kill Gregory Peck's character after the war ends. So it's great to see some real classic old tough guy actors at the height of their fame doing some good acting in this. David Niven, if you're familiar with him, he doesn't play tough guys. He mostly plays nerdy characters or comic characters, and he's playing intellectual, explosive expert, and he's the corny joker of the group, so he provides a nice contrast to Quinn and Peck. All of the actors do a bang-up job, and there's even, the script is pretty well written as well, and there's even a great "one of the people in this room must be a traitor" scene in the movie, which gives a little extra punch near the middle. It's interesting watching a movie like this, in this day and age when we get so much stuff that is just done by CGI, right? Everything is done by CGI. To go back and watch a film from 1961 and to think to yourself, wow, there is no CGI in this movie. Everything is either really happening or done with practical effects. So, they're in a storm and the boat gets shipwrecked, or they're climbing up a cliff face, and you think, well, that's really those actors doing it. I mean, I know they're not really getting shipwrecked. They're in like a water tank inside the studio, but still, practical effects, they're really getting wet, and that's real water splashing around, or that's, a real footage of a cliff that they're climbing up. So it's always interesting to go back and watch these old films now that CGI has completely changed how films are made. Okay, so that's all to the good. On the negative side, the pacing of this film is really slow. And it's from 1961, so it's a different time, different pacing. People's attention spans were different then. But yeah, I had a hard time sitting through it, to be honest. The version of this film I rented the DVD. is the collector's DVD, which contains a commentary by the director. And the director says that nowadays, this film would never get made and they'd have to change the whole pacing of the film. Which is something like we all know. I mean, we all know that classic films have a different pacing than modern films, but it's interesting to hear the director of the film himself say that and talk about how he would have to completely change the pacing. So, if your attention span, like mine, has been ruined by modern films, expect the pacing of this film to be a little bit different than what you're used to. All that being said, I would recommend it for all the positive reasons I mentioned. I think they outweigh any battles you might have sitting through a film with shorter pacing, but just be forewarned ahead of time.